Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've done a whole series of videos about food and food content because there's been a bunch of lawsuits filed over what is exactly in the food and does it match with what we're told is in the food by what the food is called. So the famous case, of course, is the Subway tuna sandwich. And the question is what kind of tuna is in there, if tuna at all. And I've also talked about vanilla, I believe, vanilla flavoring and whether something is vanilla flavored and how much vanilla it's got in it. There's, of course, the Hawaiian sweet rolls, and the question is, do they come from Hawaii? And now, I've mentioned before, the Kellogg's Pop-Tarts, the strawberry Pop-Tarts, and somebody filed a lawsuit saying, well, Pop-Tarts' number one ingredient is not strawberry, despite the fact they're called strawberry Pop-Tarts. And so someone filed a lawsuit claiming that that was a consumer protection issue. And the interesting thing is, I mean, this is what I do for a living. I do lemon law, but I've focused on consumer protection my entire career. And one of the things that you talk about when you buy something is whether it came with any warranties. And warranties in the broadest sense can often simply be a statement that describes the goods. So if I describe something as having a certain type or quality about it, you can then expect it to have that type or quality. The question, of course, is when you call a Pop-Tart strawberry, does that mean it contains only strawberries? Does that mean it contains a certain amount of strawberries? Or is it strawberry flavored? And there are gray areas when it comes to food. So just to let you know this, one of the strawberry Pop-Tarts lawsuits has now been tossed. It's been thrown out. Lawsuit claiming Kellogg's strawberry Pop-Tarts have too few strawberries is dismissed. So Reuters published this. Jonathan Stempel wrote it. And Kellogg's has won the dismissal of a proposed class action lawsuit claiming its strawberry Pop-Tarts do not contain enough strawberries. They contain some strawberries, but the question is how much do they contain? So a U.S. District Court judge in Chicago said no reasonable consumer could believe from Kellogg's packaging that the breakfast staple contained only strawberries or even more strawberries than other ingredients that they use, such as pears and apples. And we've discussed this, that a Pop-Tart, by the way, is such an unusual food stuff. It's kind of hard to describe if you don't know what it is. It's a toaster pastry, something you put in your toaster, although you can eat them raw. And they have a shelf life that is pretty much eternal, which leads me to believe that there's probably some chemicals in there of some sort. But they come in a box, and you open the box up, and then these foil packages, you open those up, and there's two Pop-Tarts in there. And the Pop-Tart is a flat, squarish, a rectangularish piece of pastry. And if you bust it open, it's got a filling inside of it. But it's designed, you put it in a toaster, you toast it. When it pops out, you let it cool off and you eat it. And so there's some kind of filling in there that gives it its flavor. So they'll have a strawberry Pop-Tart, a blueberry Pop-Tart, chocolate Pop-Tart. And the question is, if you buy a strawberry Pop-Tart and you read the ingredients, it'll say it contains apple, pear, strawberry, food coloring, food flavoring, MSG, partially de-weaponized plutonium, all kinds of stuff. And the question is are people being misled when they see it called strawberry Pop-Tarts? The ingredients are on the back of the box, but who checks that, right? So the question is, are they being misled when they're told it's a strawberry Pop-Tart and its primary ingredient is not strawberries? So that's one of the complaints. The judge wrote the word strawberry combined with a picture of half of a strawberry and a Pop-Tart oozing red filling does not guarantee there'll be a certain amount of strawberries in the product's filling, he wrote in his decision. And notice the red filling which oozes from the Pop-Tart. The plaintiff in the case said Kellogg defrauded her and other shoppers with deceptive packaging for its unfrosted strawberry Pop-Tarts, which contain red food dye that she said makes the filling brighter and more appealing on grocery store shelves. This is the kind of pleading where if it really says that in a pleading, I got to wonder about that, because a lot of people don't understand how much of our food is just colored to give it a different look. And the coloring is often not necessary for any reason other than people expect something to be a certain color. And so many things are colored that people don't think about. And so ask yourself, would you drink Coca-Cola if it was clear? Instead of being dark colored, it was clear. And so there are people who study these things and they say, well, we could make this thing without the coloring, but people would then question what it was. And by the way, your brain does factor into this. And so let's suppose that you made the Pop-Tarts And you realize that the insides, the guts, the filling, was going to be like yellowish, orangish, greenish. And they're called strawberry Pop-Tarts. You know, people are going to bite into it and go, that's not strawberry, based on the color. So they color it red. And everyone knows that color is just added to food. So the idea that the red food dye is somehow deceptive, you need to understand how common food dye is. She accused the Battle Creek, Michigan-based company of violating federal and state consumer protection laws. And the funny thing is, I remember when I was a little kid, my family lived a little bit further out that way. And it was a common thing as kids back then to go on a tour of the factory where they made cereal. I don't know if they still do that or not. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But I remember as a little kid seeing them make cereal, and it's like the coolest thing. You know, oh my gosh, they're making, industrial quantities of cereal being made. You know, if you're a little kid and you like cereal, and you see a machine that's making it, you know, like 1 million pounds a second. Whoa. But I expect that many of these types of cases may be dismissed, her lawyer said in an email on Wednesday. But that does not mean the label is not misleading. So the guy's going to, say it doesn't matter if we lost, we still should have won. Meanwhile, the attorney who filed this case is based in New York, has filed at least 3 similar lawsuits against Kellogg in Illinois and New York over its frosted strawberry, whole grain frosted strawberry, and frosted chocolate fudge Pop-Tarts. So the question is, if you buy a frosted chocolate fudge Pop-Tart, how frosted, how chocolate, how fudge is it? He said different courts could reach opposite conclusions based on almost identical facts. And sadly, that's true. And keep in mind that what happened in this case is that the plaintiff filed the lawsuit and the defendants came into court and said, dismiss it. This thing doesn't even deserve to see its day in court. Another judge might say, well, it deserves to have its day in court, but they could still go to a jury and lose. So, the people who file these lawsuits quite often aren't planning on going to the court and having trials. They hope to go to court, defeat this motion, and then settle, where everyone gets a coupon for a box of Pop-Tarts. Kellogg and its lawyers did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Wednesday. Lawsuits over false labeling are common. The law firm, which defends companies against such claims, said 325 proposed class actions were filed in 2021 against the food and beverage industry, up from 221 a year earlier, marking the 4th straight annual increase. The case, in case you're curious, is called Deceptive versus Kellogg Sales Company. Is in the U.S. District Court, Northern District of Illinois, number 21-03545. So there you go. And I have a hard time believing that in this day and age, especially after all the attention drawn to this, that people are going to go to the store and buy Pop-Tarts and think that, the primary ingredient must be strawberries because it's called a strawberry Pop-Tart. It contains some strawberries. It's just not entirely strawberries. But if you said, Steve, as a consumer protection attorney, and you're walking through a big store, a Walmart, a Kroger, a Meijer, whatever the big hypermarkets are near where you live, you're walking through a big store. Which section of the store do you think the packaging is like the loosest with respect to what you can expect to be 100% true if you take the literal meaning of everything on the packaging? Where do you think it's going to fall apart? The breakfast aisle. And half of it is because they're appealing to parents, but they also know that parents are often appealing to their kids. And so some of this stuff is aimed at kids, especially if you look at the artwork on the boxes and so on. But I remember in law school reading about the lawsuit that was filed against the maker of Lucky Charms. And this will sound like a Snopes story, but it's absolutely true because it's in one of the case books that I still have from law school. And somebody sued Lucky Charms. And they said that their television advertising, which showed cartoon characters coming to life out of a bowl of cereal, is somehow misleading to children. So I seem to recall that lawsuit got dismissed also. But the Kellogg's Strawberry Pop-Tart lawsuit, one of them has been dismissed. Others are still alive. But the question you have then is, what's going to happen next? Let's suppose you filed 4 such lawsuits across the country. One of your lawsuits just got tossed by a federal court judge who wrote an opinion and said, here's what I think. If you're the defendant in the case, you're Kellogg's, and you're their attorney, you get a copy of that opinion and you file it with the other 3 courts when the time is right and ask the court to dismiss it based on the exact same rationale. Now, different district courts aren't bound by each other, right? But if there's a well-reasoned opinion that lays it out, another judge might look at it and go, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I can picture somebody saying, you know something, this is such good at reasoning, let's bring in the attorney and see what they have to say. Oh, by the way, it's the same attorney from the other case? There's going to come a question. If they lose a couple of these, do you leave the other ones going or do you withdraw them? That's another question. But that's an advanced question for the people in my audience who practice in federal court. And I know there's a few, so there you go. But at least one of the Pop-Tart lawsuits has been dismissed, according to Jonathan Stempel from Reuters. Edward, Josh, and Danny sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. I'll just talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Mother Teresa once said, "We cannot do great things on this earth, only small things with great love." True.